Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, June 23rd. It's not as big of a list as there was last week. There's a little over 400 albums coming out this week. I got 14 on my list today. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that we put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Well, like I said in the intro, there's over 400 albums coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 14 of them, so if there's something I don't talk about on the show today, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to picking up this week. And like always, if you're unable to find any of these in your local brick and mortar stores, I'll put links down below. They'll all be available online. So it looks like the big release this week is going to be this Eric Clapton, the Definitive 24 Nights, available in a couple of different box sets. So you got a big super deluxe box set that's going to run you about $250 online, and then there's also 3 separate box sets that are going to be available also. They're all part of that big box set. So you got a blues release, a rock release, and an orchestral release, which all those 3 are going to run you about $50 each. So it, like I said, looks like it's going to be a big release. A little backstory on this. Back in 1990, Eric Clapton went to the Royal Albert Hall in London with 3 very different bands. Like I said, rock, blues, and orchestral, and did, I think it was 18 nights they did in 1990. It was a huge success, great string of shows that they did. So a year later, in 1991, Eric Clapton goes back to that same venue with those 3 separate bands and did 24 nights. This is going to be all the recordings from those shows. And he had some special guests that were included in those performances also. So he had Phil Collins for the rock ensemble. He had Robert Cray, Buddy Guy, and Albert Collins for the blues section. And then for the orchestral performances, they had a 30-minute long concerto for guitar that was composed by Michael Kramer specifically for that release or for those series of shows. So really interesting series of releases. I'm not the biggest Eric Clapton fan. It's one that if it's available on streaming, I'll check it out. I doubt a majority. I don't know. Maybe they will release this on streaming, or maybe parts of it will be available on streaming. I'm not really sure, but I'd like to check some of it out. Especially, like I said, especially the blues stuff. I love Eric Clapton's blues music, and like I said, I'm not the biggest Eric Clapton fan, but that looks like a good release. $250 though is a lot for me. And then this week you've also got Candlebox live at the Neptune. This is a live album that was recorded in November 2021, Neptune Theater up in Seattle. Looks like it was a great show. This is a second of 2 one-off reunion shows that the original band got together and did. The first one was back in 2018, then this one in 2021. From what I've read, it's got a bunch of great reviews on this. I'm looking forward to checking this release out. It's going to run you about $30 online. Like I said, the original band got together, played 10 tracks over their first 3 albums. So you had their self-titled release that everyone knows. Then you've got Lucy, and Happy Pills was their 3rd album. So 10 tracks off of those albums. Like I said, it's going to be a good release. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. This week, you've also got the new album from Kelly Clarkson coming out. This is Chemistry. This is her 10th studio album. It's going to run you about $25 online. That's the follow-up to her 2017 album, Meaning of Life, which I'm not the hugest Kelly Clarkson fan. I like some of the earlier stuff in her career, some of the early rockish kind of stuff. I thought Meaning of Life was a really good album, though, so I'll definitely stream this one and check it out. She said this is a very personal album for her, very therapeutic process that she went through recording this album. I'll stream it and check it out before I make it my way to the record store. And then this week you've also got Porcupine Tree, Coma, Coda coming out. So this was actually released last year, and it's on red vinyl last year. It's going to be reissued on red vinyl this year. This is last year I think it was a very limited release though, so I think it's getting a little bit wider of a release this year. So when the band went and recorded their live album Coma Divine in 1997, it's a show they did back in Rome. They did 3 different nights in that club in Rome in 97, and when the live album came out, in 97, it was just, I think, primarily the 3rd show is what they released. So this is actually a release of the 2nd night of those 3 shows. So it's another one that it's going to run you $61. So it's not a cheap release. If it was maybe $20 cheaper, I might be a little more interested in picking it up. But it's one I'll check out online if it's available. There's a couple interesting jazz releases coming out this week both by Sonny Rollins. The first one, this is live in Helsinki, 1972. This is a newly released show from the Finlandia Hall in Helsinki in 1972. I guess it's part of the Finland Festival, is what it was all part of. But this is a 2 LP release by Svart Records, which I've never heard of that label before. But it's going to run about $30 online. Really limited release. It's going to be limited to 1,000 copies. It is going to be available on CD also. It's I might try to grab that one if I find it in stores, because I do love Sonny Rollins. I've started collecting more of his stuff over the last probably year or so. So slowly becoming one of my favorite jazz musicians. And then you've also got Go West, the Contemporary Records albums. This is going to run you about $125 online. It is a 3 LP release. This is a newly recut from the original analog tapes by Bernie Grunman. So this is a collection that contains 2 classic Sonny albums. So you got Way Out West, which was released in 1957. And then you got Sonny Rollins and the Contemporary Leaders, which was released in 58. Both of them are great jazz albums. I don't own either one of those. I've streamed them before. I love both of those albums. $125, so it is quite a bit for me, but I might still pick it up. So the 3 LPs contain not just the albums. There are 6 alternate tracks that were released. The only time that those 6 tracks were ever released were part of a compilation. I think it was '86 that came out, but it's the only time. So there is some stuff you're getting outside of just those standard albums on this release. But like I said, $125 is quite a bit, but I think that's going to be a great release. A band that I really consider one of the most underrated in rock music right now, at least as far as like newer bands go, has a reissue coming out this week. This is Rival Sons, Hollow Bones. Came out back in 2016. It was their 5th studio album. It's going to run you about $35 online. Rival Sons, if you have not checked them out yet, they are a fantastic band, and this is a great album. I think this is a great, if you're unfamiliar with the band, this is a great album to start with. I think it's their best album so far. They just released a new album. I haven't checked that one out yet, so I don't really know about that one yet, but I think this is their most popular album. It was at least their highest charting album here in the U.S. They're I guess the best way to describe them is probably like blues infused hard rock, I think is a great way to put it. Kind of very reminiscent of some of the older rock that we all kind of grew up with. And like I said, I love this band. One of my favorite newer bands of the last several years. So that's one to definitely check out. And then you got Death Cab for Cutie, the photo album coming out this week. This was released back in 2001. Their 3rd studio album. It's a double LP. This is a deluxe edition. I'll get to why I'm using air quotes there. It's so this is going to run you about $30 online. This is going to be limited to 1,000 copies. And so this includes a 12-page booklet, and this is the part I don't like. It also has digital-only material on here, which, if you're going to release this, release it on vinyl or just release it digitally. I don't like the bands are kind of starting to do this, where it's kind of a mixed release where they're doing just a vinyl release of the album and then digital-only material, because the digital-only material includes B-sides, demos, acoustic versions, and alternate versions and outtakes. Which, okay, so if it adds another LP onto this release, or 2 LPs, make a 3 LP release and charge an extra $20 for it, and just do a proper release for this album. I'm not a big fan of this digital only kind of stuff. So over the course of the last probably year or two, Glenn Danzig has been releasing large parts of his discography outside of his first 4 albums, which his first 4 albums were all on Deaf American or American Recordings. So I'm not sure if there's like some kind of licensing deal why they're not reissuing those. Those are the big albums that I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have been waiting to get reissued. But the rest of his discography that has been getting reissued lately. This week you're getting a reissue of 777 I Luciferi, which was released back in 2002 as a 7th studio album. It is a really good album. This is on black, white, and red splatter vinyl. Saw a mock-up online. It actually looks pretty cool. It's going to run you about $30 online. This is not my favorite Danzig album, but I think it's definitely a darker album for Glenn. Still has a little bit of that industrial kind of sound to it, but he's kind of moving away from that. I think he was trying to get back at this point in his career, trying to get back to some of that classic Glenn Danzig sound for his albums. It's probably his most complete album. I don't think there's really any filler on here. Like I said, it's not my favorite album of his, but it is a really good one to check out. And then this week you've also got Willie Nelson, The Great Divide, coming out, released back in 2002. This was his 50th studio album, which Willie's released a lot of great stuff over his career, and I don't think there's anything I've ever listened to that I didn't like. So I haven't listened to this one though, but I definitely need to check this one out. It's gonna run you about $30 online. This is the first time it's ever been available on vinyl, so that's pretty cool. It looks like a pretty cool release. There's collaborations with Rob Thomas, Kid Rock, Sheryl Crow, Brian McKnight, Bonnie Raitt. It's a bunch of great artists that are going to be on this album. So it's like I said, I've never checked it out, but first time on vinyl, so maybe I'll grab a copy of it this week. So this week you got the next two releases in the RSD Essential series that's been really popular over the last year or so. They've done a bunch of really great releases. This week you got two albums from Corrosion and Conformity coming out. The first one, this is Live Volume, released back in 2001. Of course, it's a live album. It's a double LP on translucent red vinyl. It's going to run you about $41 online. This is really cool. This was recorded April 20th, 2001 at Harpo's here in Detroit. If you're unfamiliar with what Harpo's is, it's a really great metal and industrial venue. Really small too. It opened back in 1939. It was first just a traditional theater, and then at some point, I think it was like early part of the 70s, it was bought and converted into a music venue. Seats about 2,500 people. Well, the capacity is about 2,500 people in there. So it's really kind of like I said, a smaller venue, but it's a venue that pretty much everyone, the who's who in metal and industrial, have played there over the years. Bunch of great shows there. So that's a kind of a cool one to check out. And then the next one is In the Arms of God, released back in 2005. It was their 7th studio album. This is a double LP on, it says natural vinyl. It looks like a beige to me. I'm not really sure why they're calling it natural. So somebody knows, they can always drop me a comment down below. It's going to run you about $41, and this is the last album to feature Pepper Keenan on vocals until their album, I don't remember the name of it, came out in 2018. And this is an interesting album because this still has a lot of thrash in it. But Corrosion and Conformity was kind of blending in some of the kind of more poppier kind of stuff. I really don't want to call this album poppy, but if you listen to this album and you're familiar with this album and you compare it to some of the earlier stuff from Corrosion and Conformity, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I think it's a great mixture. It's a fantastic album. I'm not the biggest Corrosion and Conformity fan, but like I said, this is a really good release, and $41 is still kind of a little pricey for me, but maybe I'll grab this one. So the last two on my list are both albums that are like polar opposites of each other. They're both really interesting releases, but for very, very different reasons. The first one, this is the Jerky Boys' self-titled album, released back in 1993. If you're unfamiliar with who the Jerky Boys are, in 2023, their comedy probably couldn't be made today, but they would probably get canceled pretty quickly. But I love this album. This is a fantastic album. I've loved it ever since it was first released back in 1993. It's going to run about $27 online. This is the first time it's been available on vinyl since it was first released. So in 1993, it was released on vinyl. Hasn't been available until now. So this is definitely one I'm going to grab this week. And then the last one on the list, this is Grease, The Rise of Pink Ladies. This is the original soundtrack from the new series that's on Paramount Plus. Growing up, I was a huge Grease fan. Loved that movie. So this is a prequel. It's a prequel series that Paramount is doing about the Pink Ladies, which were part of Grease. I think this is like 3 or 4 years before the events of Grease happened. I haven't watched it yet. It's got a bunch of great reviews. I know that it only ran 10 episodes, the first season did, so it's one I've got on my watch list. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but like I said, it's got a bunch of great reviews. The soundtrack looks, I don't really know what to expect from the soundtrack, though, because online I only saw like 2 tracks listed, but I know there's more than that on this album. It's I think they missed an opportunity with this one, though, because it's called Rise of the Pink Ladies, but it's not a pink vinyl. I think it should have definitely been on pink vinyl. Maybe there's a pink vinyl version of it coming out, but that's not the standard release that I'm seeing. But I don't know. For $26, it might not be a bad one to grab. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. A bunch of great stuff coming out this week. I'm definitely interested in both of those Sonny Rollins releases. Definitely going to grab that Rival Sons. Some other stuff that I'm kind of up in the air on, but drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to picking up this week. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.